This has been Strictly Ball Business.
Strictly ball business.
Strictly ball business.
I like that video.
Shit.
We're talking about Rudy Gobert unlocking D'Angelo Russell as a player, as a star dimer in this league, as a great pick and roller in this game. How exactly do you think it's gonna really start out with these two? Is he even gonna help them out on defense? Maybe.
Oh yeah. So, I mean, if we want to start off on defense, Rudy Gobert is. The last time D'Angelo played with a guy who can cover a good amount, can cover the paint as a really good defensive player, was Jared Allen with the Nets, and he flourished. He made an All-Star team. He led that team. Not to say that he's going to be an All-Star again, like you just said, but what he was able to do. I mean, D'Lo. I'm trying. All right. So D'Lo took miles of steps this year defensively. Granted, he's still not a good on-ball defender. He's just limited. He's just not the most athletic guy. But what he did do was he got the system right. He knew where to rotate, which ones to move over. So when you have a guy like Gobert that can actually hold down the paint, where they're like, even if they get by me, there's no guarantee they're going to score. Whereas last year with the Timberwolves, you had Towns or like Naz Reid or Jared Vanderbilt, who Jared Vanderbilt's a good defensive player. Naz has work. Cat's just not a good defensive player. So you could force that if they went down, it was still a concern. Where, I mean, granted, people can score on Gobert. I'm not saying he doesn't. I'm just saying it's a safe bet. He's going to do everything they can, especially in the defensive scheme. So he can he can fit rotations. Whereas even if they dive back, it's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
So defensively, he's covered. Even when they get by him, that's not going to be that big of a disaster as last year they did. And Finch is great with rotations. I'm not too worried about how that's going to go. So, but defense it's pretty simple as that. But offensively, the main thing D'Lo struggled. I mean, 18 points per game, 7 assists last season, was efficiency. 41% throughout. 41% from field goal, 34% from three, below average. That's just not typical D'Lo. He's a pretty good shooter, actually. So, shooting, spacing's still going to be tight. 3-pointers are still going to probably come at an inefficient clip unless he fixes his shot or so. So, I mean, not fixes his shot, just hits him, But as for everything else, field goal rate or like even assists are going to go up. So, he's never had a pick and roll partner like Rudy Gobert. And this is one of Rudy's most underrated traits is how good he is in the pick and roll offensively. That he 71% for a reason, because he's hyper efficient. And D'Lo, I mean, he was top 30% in percentile in pick and rolls, most efficient points per game, 34% frequency. You're going to see that go a lot now because, I mean, granted, he had the ball less, but now you're going to see less ISOs because Rudy Gobert, one thing about him in pick and roll is that a lot of players, once the pick and roll falls apart, they just kind of go off to the side or do something. Rudy, like, very often the pick and roll will fall apart and he'll just go back and do it. Like, he'll just go back, roll, go back, roll, which is very uncommon for players, but that's why he shoots 71% because, like, the decision making is still there. Like, if it's a bad roll, he's still gonna come back and fix it. Or if it comes from the other side or same side, what that does is just it keeps pulling that center out, so it just opens up space for either him to go down for the roll, but he's so smart during the pick and roll, Rudy Gobert, where even watching the footage, this guy he sees it, and he immediately as soon as he sees the pick land, he's gone. He's down. He's not the quickest guy, but it's just reactionary. He knows when it's set. He knows when it's taking place. As soon as the guy goes over, especially with a guy like D'Angelo Russell, who Rudy Gobert hasn't played with, because as soon as if D'Angelo gets like a splinter of air from these guys, they're behind his back. They're not getting in front of him. That's one of his best traits. Granted, most of his floaters or mid-range just didn't go down last year because they stepped up on him because Cat.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally, D'Lo has been a phenomenal mid-range scorer. Sometimes he's been the best mid-range scorer in the league a couple years. So I'd love to see him get back to that point. I think having a couple of big men setting screens for him, getting him wide open is definitely going to help. And Rudy Gobert is a guy that really knows how to move throughout the offense, like you said. So looking forward to that. I think this is just a match made in heaven. I know there's a lot of criticism just on how much the Wolves gave up and all, but you know what? They got their guy. In the end, it's draft picks. Fuck them picks. Like, the Wolves have wasted picks year after year after year. When you know you can get a bona fide superstar like this, you just have to take the shot. And I think it's going to help make your guy like D'Lo better, which you really need that to happen because it's the make or break it year for him.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, the defensive impact Gobert has is, we've said it before, with him on the floor, it's a 91%, 91 points per game offensive rating. But when he's off the floor, it's a 106. It's insane. Like, people forget the impact he has on defense. Sure, perimeter, he might struggle a little bit, but he's gotten miles better. But
people just love to criticize him with a magnifying glass because he's so good. You know, when you get to that point where you're the very best at what you do, people want to criticize you for anything.
Right. And the uninitiated like to look at him and just be like, oh, he's just a tall guy that gets rebounds and gets blocks. When, like, I mean, the uninitiated, they don't dive deep into the numbers, or they don't dive deep into the film like we do. So they can't see what he actually does.
Yeah, and it's like if a big man who just got blocks, if that's all it took, and he got rebounds, like that's all it took, then there would be tons of Rudy Goberts out there. But there's not. There's only one. And, you know, there's a couple guys who are a couple steps off from him, but they're just not as good. I mean, fact of the matter is, he should have won Defensive Player of the Year again this year.
Yeah. But
voters simply were tired of voting for the same guy.
Oh, no, exactly. But my main point with this is just like, we talk about Cat and how he's going to excel and how he's going to do at the power forward. But I do think if there's one player on the Timberwolves that's going to benefit the most from Rudy Gobert, I think it's going to be D'Angelo. I think he's the exact player he needed. He's kind of like what we thought Cat was going to be. Him and Cat were going to be. We kind of forgot, like, Cat pops a lot. He doesn't roll as much. And honestly, most of the pick and rolls D'Lo had was not with Cat. Cat didn't run that many pick and rolls. And granted, Ant runs his fair share, but like now that Beverly's gone too, we're gonna see the ball more in split between Ant and D'Lo's hands, because it's not gonna be Jaden, it's not gonna be Rudy. Obviously, Cat's gonna have the ball more, which we've talked about. Jordan McLaughlin's
gonna get more minutes too, as the backup point,
and Austin Rivers.
Yeah, but you know, I do believe that Rudy Gobert is going to have a great connection with everyone on the starting five, because him getting inserted into it makes everyone better. Everyone on this starting five is going to be able to play the way that they want to, which is really empowering for players. Like Cat wants to play on the perimeter. He doesn't want to be banging in the paint all the time. He wants to have a long career where he shoots 8 to 10 threes a game. And honestly, he's not a bad perimeter defender, and if you give him some more time there, I think he can improve.
Yeah, I think he's not a bad perimeter defender. He struggles with some guards, whereas he's just a bit. I mean, he's still 6'10", like he's still slower. Like all bigs will struggle at a certain rate, and he's not the longest guy, but guarding 3s and 4s, in which I expect him to be guarding, I think he's gonna do fine.
Yeah, I mean, you put him on like Michael Porter Jr. I mean, I think like, he can get right up on him, and like that's probably like the best style of four you're gonna face. I guess other than like if you got him like guarding like KD and stuff and Giannis, we'll see.
Right, it does change.
Put Gobert on Giannis in some scenarios though.
Yeah, I mean, it completely changes his defensive role too. So like usually as a center, when they step out to guard, they know they don't like going far back because they know they have to get back to the paint anyway. So now Cat doesn't. It's just one less worry off his chest. He knows he can play up and stay where he is. I mean, assuming Gobert is on the floor.
Well, let me ask you this before we move on to the next topic. Who do you think guards DeAndre Ayton in a best-of-7 series, Wolves versus the Suns? Is it Gobert or is it Cat?
Oh, I think it's against the Suns.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be Gobert because
who does Cat guard? Who's their four?
Jay Crowder or Mikael or Cam Johnson. I think he's gonna guard any of those. Assuming
mismatch.
I mean, I would look at Gobert's always gonna help off, but Gobert in the Suns specific. That's a good thing to mention. So like in the Suns specifically, they don't really have another big man that does any post play. So that's the only reason Gobert would play on him. But
yeah, they're screwed against Cat, I think, though. Like, what are they going to do defending him?
Exactly. But let's look at the Warriors. So they have Kevon Looney, assuming Kevon's the center and Draymond's the power forward. I do think in that case, Gobert is going to guard Draymond so he can play more help defense, and Cat's going to be on Looney in that case because both it's separate, and obviously they're going to dare Green to shoot at any point in any time. But usually in those cases where they can afford to have Gobert off and help, and so he can sit in the dunker spot, they will. And Cat will guard the centers from time to time if it's a Kevon Looney but I expect it mainly if it's like they're the only paint. I mean, like the Cavs are going to be kind of difficult with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, but I assume they could do it a number of ways with the Cavs, but they will prioritize Gobert over help over on ball defense, assuming what I said earlier.
Yes. Well, I think we've talked a lot about Gobert and overall how he's going to help everyone on this team, and especially D'Angelo Russell. So let's move on.
Did you guys like that video? I like that video. Just comment, like, and subscribe.